Just before we start, of course, Coventry v Wrexham on Friday night. We did a React episode straight off the back of that game, so we won't be talking about that here. Make sure you go back and listen to that for our thoughts on that game, which was a massive result, wasn't it? But let's dive in with Southampton, Justin, because Will Still has been sacked after just one win in 11 for them. It's after a 2-0 defeat at home to Preston. 3-word reviews for Southampton. Lucas says, we're bloody awful. Jeremy says, gutless, hopeless, pointless. David says, double relegation incoming. Steve says, Sports Republic out. Gemma says the performance didn't deserve 3 words. She's just gone with shite. Yeah, Justin, Will Still has been sacked. And before we talk about that decision and what next for Southampton, let's talk about the game itself, because while my narrative over the past couple of weeks has been Southampton have actually been playing well, it's just results haven't gone their way, that wasn't the case here, was it?
No, it was a bad performance. You can't even argue that Southampton were winning the XG battle. 63% of the ball, 27 touches inside the Preston box, and just 2 shots on target, an XG of 0.48. It's pretty atrocious for a home performance. And then you mix it with the disparity in the squad values as well compared to Preston. It's just an astonishing difference, really. And to put that out as a home performance was really, really poor. So I guess if Will Still was going to go at any point, it was off the back of this performance.
Yeah, because Southampton were really bad. They did have a couple of moments. I think Casper Yander, it was, who hit the bar after a brilliant save by Daniel Everson, but there wasn't much else to shout about. And even the other thing I've been saying is that the goals have come from individual errors, but that wasn't the case here. It was just bad team defending. So while I've been defending Will Still over recent weeks, it was very hard to do so after this performance. And yeah, Preston have obviously started the season well, but a team of the quality that Southampton have should be turning them over. And this was a very deserved loss. And there were boos at various stages in the game. They were entirely deserved because, I mean, there were even boos at one stage when it was 0-0. The worst was yet to come in this game. But there were a chance of Sports Republic get out of our club, they, of course, being the owners, and they've acted, Justin, because Will Still has now been sacked. I'll just read out a brief section from the statement. This is from Johannes Spors, who's the group technical director. He says, Will is a great person who gave everything to try and improve performances and results. Ultimately, that process has taken longer than any of us would have liked. By making the change now, we believe it gives us the best chance of turning things around this season and climbing back up the league table. So what are your thoughts on that, Justin? What are your thoughts on the decision to dismiss Will Still?
It's not a surprise because it's that way his currency was running pretty low. And then, like I said, if Southampton were going to get rid at any point, it was off the back of the performance against Preston. It was that bad. But it's hard to be too critical of him. I mean, the video he did in midweek on Will Still was quite eye-opening in terms of the numbers that Southampton have produced. They've been vastly underperforming from a player point of view. But it's hard to be too critical. It is hard to be too critical because it felt like he's stepping into a club that was already rotting. It was already rotting. The defensive issues were present under Russell Martin in the Championship. They conceded 63 that year. That was the just 2 more than Birmingham. Obviously, they went down that season. Clean sheets have not been drilled into this team and haven't been for years. That's one way of criticising Will Still, in the sense that should have been a quick fix, or that should have been the thing you fix first. But ultimately, you got to look at the hierarchy. They've gone in, they've hired a young manager who was, I think, one thing you need to mention very, very early in this is I think Will Still will be a success. I think he will be a huge success. But this job was not right for him. It just wasn't. Southampton needed someone with a calmer head, a steadier head, who isn't necessarily a style of play manager, but someone who's going to get the best out of individuals. That's where they needed to go. And unfortunately, Will Still's bitten the bullet in that he's a martyr for what was a poor decision by the hierarchy, who have made a lot of poor decisions of late.
Yeah, they absolutely have, haven't they? And that's why we sit here right now with Southampton still having only won 4 games since the playoff final just over a year ago. It's not all down to Will Still. The problem is at Southampton, there's obviously a lot going on there. And I've defended Will Still a lot over recent weeks. Of course, this performance against Preston was bad. Let's make that very clear. But they've been very unfortunate to have not won more games this season. You mentioned all the metrics there. In pretty much every single metric, Southampton have actually been playing pretty well XG, expected points. I'm looking at we mentioned expected points in midweek, Justin. They're third in the table for that, which is insane, isn't it? That they're now sat, where are they in the table? They're 21st. It's ridiculous. And look, I think Will Still's a very talented coach and will still go on to have a very successful career, whatever happens. But I think it's just proven to be too big a job because we have of course, got to remember he's the youngest manager we've ever had in the Championship. Very easy to forget, but worth bearing in mind. And I think tactically he's very switched on. I think we've seen evidence of that at Southampton, despite results obviously not going very well. I think that's just one part of management, though. And management is a huge thing in management. Rebuilding confidence, getting a team to run into the ground for you. And from what we've seen, I think we'll still struggle with that. And that's what Southampton have really needed. Someone who can manage these players mentally, because I don't think they needed a tactics or spreadsheet manager kind of thing. They needed someone to pick them up after an abysmal campaign last season. And I think the most important point that you made is, in different circumstances, Will Still probably would have been perfect for Southampton. I entirely agree. I think it's just the right manager at the wrong time, if that makes sense.
I think that's the best way to summarise it, is the right manager at the wrong time, because I think the issues that Southampton have had that have carried over into this season, this is one way I would criticise his style of play, is his team was keeping the ball far too much and we're getting undone by counters. And one thing that XG hides is I think Southampton have only needed to concede one or two chances to be beaten. Opposition have not needed to create an awful lot against them to win their games. That comes down to confidence, but also their team shape and getting done on counter-attacks has been pretty poor, or not been proactive enough. But that's where we're going to throw Gary Rowett as an example. I think I've used the example before already. The first thing he does into a club taking over who are in a bad run of form is he tightens them up. He makes them hard to beat and difficult to beat. Now, I know Will still had a pre-season, so it's not quite a similar circumstance, but I think an experienced coach comes in, does that, and that's where you start to manufacture your confidence. In addition to that, he was constantly changing his back line, and that tells me he didn't trust any of them, which tells me in terms of recruitment, it needs to be better. Nonetheless, Taylor Harwood-Bellis is a good example of the man management side of things as well. He's a good player. He was literally called up to the England squad 12 months ago. Yeah. Scored on his debut. But at Southampton, he looks lost. So he needs someone who's got that experience as a man manager to come in, put their arm on the shoulder and go, you are better than this. You can do better. Let's find a way through it together. That sort of thing. I don't know what conversation goes on behind the closed doors, but could have been a Belgian. I don't know. You know how good he is at changing between languages, but ultimately Belgian. Yeah.
They speak French there, don't they?
Crikey, just geopolitical stuff I'm not aware of, Ryan. Leave it out.
Did he speak Belgian? I don't actually know. I'm confused now. But he flicks between French and...
He can speak two languages, yeah.
Anyway, it's not part of the point, is it? But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think I obviously did the video on YouTube in midweek and was really bigging up Will Still and defending him to the hilt. I think he will go on to have a very successful career, even though things didn't go well at Southampton. I imagine he'll probably stay in the Championship because the reason he came to England in the first place is because he wanted to be nearer to his partner. So it'll be interesting to see where he does end up next. But I think whoever gets him will be getting a talented manager, despite what has happened here at Southampton. But I guess the question is now, Justin, where do they go next? Producer Tom made a very good point that if he held on a bit longer, Danny Raw would have been perfect for the job, really, wouldn't he? But yeah, I'm really not sure where they go next now.
Yeah, a bit of Russell Martin, throw him in there.
Why not? God, surely not. Surely not.
No, he's Russell Martin has overseen one of the worst teams in Premier League history and destroyed a Scottish giant. So maybe he needs a bit of a break. It's not like you to
find any excuse to dig out Russell Martin, is it?
You know me. It makes me feel better, Ryan. Makes me feel better. Where do they go from here? I think it's got to be someone experienced. Whether or not that's someone from abroad, I don't know. I think that's too much of a risk. Ralph Hasenhüttl is available. I think that would be a good appointment. He knows the club. It would be an easy appointment. And it's easy for me to say that. He's experienced and his style of play is one of solidity first and then execute that high press. So he might be a good option. But I'd press the Tony Mowbray klaxon, Ryan. Go on then. Tony Mowbray button. He makes everyone feel better, doesn't he? Come on.
I'm not sure Southampton fans would be on board with that, even though I don't think he would actually be that bad appointment, really, because he may be the kind of guy that they need. But yeah, it's I honestly don't know where they go next. They need someone who is a good man manager, though, don't we? Because of everything that we've just said there. Will still a great tactician, but confidence is clearly on the floor at Southampton. So an experienced head wouldn't go amiss, I don't think. But whatever route they go down is going to be really, really interesting. We'll give a little bit of praise for Preston because completely skirted over them here because back-to-back wins for them, just their second away win since February. So what a result for North End, Justin.
Yeah, you forget how bad their away form is. Obviously, their other win this season coming against Derby. But the way Paul Higginbottom set his side up in this game was fantastic. They absorbed the pressure. They hit them Southampton on the counter. Both goals came from those scenarios. The second goal, which was quite pleasing because it literally came from Daniel Leverson, who rolled the ball out. He did a similar thing earlier on in the season where he literally threw the ball to Alfie Devine, I think it was, and then they went up and scored. So there's clearly some game plan going on there, but it was a great away performance. I really like the honesty from Paul Heckingbottom as well, because he suggested after the game that they know they can do better with the ball, but highlighted how important their work off the ball created the chances and ultimately got them the win against Southampton. I mean, talking about good man managers, Paul Heckingbottom, he's up there.
Get him in, Southampton. What are you thinking? Surely, why is it taking you this long? You should have got him in yesterday. My Preston supporting friend who drops me a message after every Preston win was at it again last night. So fair play to them, really. I agree with everything you say there. An exceptional away performance, defended brilliantly. Daniel Leverson had to make one big save. That was pretty much it for him, really. So yeah, Preston doing really, really well and continue to do a hell of a lot better than we or anyone, quite frankly, expected. They've also signed Jamal Lewis on a free transfer this week, Justin, going from playing in Sao Paulo last season to Preston this season. So good on him. It's back-to-back victories for Blackburn after they won 2-0 away at Leicester. 3 reviews for Blackburn. Dave on our Patreon says a good win, spelt G-U-D. David says Iceman strikes foxes. Mikey says banker my arse, which is in reference to Justin's banker pick in the preview show from Friday. But Andre Goodjohnson at the double again, and I'm contractually obliged to point out he's the son of Ida. And it appears that goal scoring is in the genes, Justin.
You should hope so if he's become a professional footballer and, his dad made it all the way to Barcelona. But yeah, 3 goals in his last 2 games. He's now officially better than his dad, by the way, because Ida Goodjohnson only managed 1 career goal against Leicester. So
there you go.
There's what a profit he's going to make for Blackburn.
What more proof do you need?
Yeah, he's not played for Barcelona yet, but why bother when you're playing for Blackburn? But yeah, he's certainly, I think Blackburn have this incredible habit of unearthing goal scorers. They've done it for years under Tony Mowbray, where one leaves, another pops up. They're yet to have that since Schmodix left, obviously last season. But if Andrew Goodjohnson can come in and get that consistent run of form going, great. I think it does help that Blackburn will play to his strengths and get balls in the box. The more they do that, I think the more goals he'll score, because his movement looked very, very effective against Leicester. Yeah,
it definitely did. He's been the difference maker for Blackburn, hasn't he? And Leicester could have really used someone like him in this game because they missed some good chances. Steffi Mavididi, how have you not got a goal to your name after this game? An astonishing save by Belash Tote in the Blackburn goal, which genuinely may be the save of the season, but still, Mavididi has to be scoring. And yeah, Leicester on top for a lot of the game, couldn't find a breakthrough. And then when the second goal went in, that was it. The wind was taken out of their sails, and it's now just 1 win in 9 for the Foxes, Justin. 3 losses on the bounce. This was another game where there were a fair few boos. There were chants of, you're not fit to wear the shirt, and Marty Cifuentes appears to be another manager, finding himself under a bit of pressure.
Yeah, I do feel more for Cifuentes than do the other managers, because he's not had the manoeuvrability in the transfer window that others have had. I think with Leicester, you're maybe sort of curting over the performance a little bit. I was really, really disappointed with it because I think it was a worryingly straightforward win for Blackburn. That's not to take anything away from Rovers, but I didn't feel Leicester really threatened at all. I know they had the chances with Steffi Mavididi. That was the big one. That was to get them the equaliser. You did fail to mention that Mavididi stole one off the line from Yannick Vestergaard in the first half, which would have given Leicester a 1-0 lead, and what Leicester have been good at is being relatively bland and boring while leading a game. So I couldn't see Blackburn getting into it as soon as Leicester score or take the lead, but that wasn't to be the case. But yeah, this was a worryingly straightforward win for Rovers, and that's me being critical of Leicester here. I think the biggest thing I can take out of it is looking at Stefan Mavididi and Adil Fatawu, is they're not getting into 1v1 situations enough. That's where they can really, really harm teams. Ricardo Pereira likes to underlap on the inside, doesn't really give Fatawu enough avenue to get at defenders. Jordan James is having to play in a number 10 role, but he's a number 8, so there's a lot of sort of square pegs and inability to get the best out of the individuals that you've got at your hands, because you've got two of the best wingers in the division in Fatawu and Mavididi, but what are you doing with them? Nothing. So I can criticise Cifuentes there, because he's got more to play with at Leicester than he did at QPR, but results are the same, if not worse.
Yeah, it's not going well at all, is it? And keep in mind, they've got a potential points deduction incoming at some point. So they need all the help they can get this season, don't they, before that comes in? But yeah, Leicester are a side we haven't covered too extensively because they draw a lot. But it's something I've said a lot, that they haven't particularly played well all season. They shoot a lot. That I can say. They win the shot count in most games. So you'd be forgiven for thinking they've been unfortunate with their recent results, but actually they've got the lowest XG per shot in the entire division, which shows even though they're shooting a lot, they're not carving out chances. They're mainly just having cracks from all over the shop. Mm-hmm. They're 16th in the division for most big chances created, which, as you say, when you've got two of the best wingers in the division, that should be a lot better. Defensively, really poor as well. They've got the 5th highest XG against. So yeah, to reiterate the point, they've not been great all season, even when they were 3rd not too long ago. So it's felt like the results would catch up with them at some point. The thing is, this is a really talented team, and despite various issues over the summer, I know you were mentioning how Marty Cifuentes didn't have much manoeuvrability in the summer. Yeah, they didn't sign anyone until the final day or two of the transfer window because they were trying to balance the books with PSR, but it's still a really talented team, and you've got plenty of players here who won the league with Leicester at a canter a couple of seasons ago. But that team was ruthless and would almost bully teams into submission. This team is miles off that, Justin.
This team is toothless, Ryan. Come on, there's a good rhyming segue there for you. Gone from ruthless to toothless.
Okay, fine.
Sorry,
I didn't think about that.
Could have been a great bit of speech there, but yeah, you spotted it. But the point stands, they're toothless. I mean, you've only got to look at the forwards, haven't you? They're not getting enough goals out of AU, Karanda, Daka. Do you know what I mean? I know you can talk about the squad being talented, and there are talented individuals within it, but I do think the squad is a bit of a mess. And it's ultimately, you've gone from Enzo Maresca, who's possession-based, built the team around Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall, who was massively effective in that final third. That's the sort of role that Jordan James needs to play, by the way. And then you've gone from Maresca to Steve Cooper, who's defensive, to Van Nistelrooy, who's, I don't know, it was possession-based.
What was that?
Yeah,
what was that? Van Nistelrooy ball?
And then to Cifuentes, who's a little bit more adaptable, but likes a structured style, but likes to play it out from the back. So you've recruited from Maresca, and then the managers from Maresca to now have had to really sort of make do with what they've got, because they can't spend or they can't move too much in transfer-wise. But ultimately, the squad needs ripping up. It needs starting again, and Cifuentes is the first chapter for this new story for Leicester, because I think this is the thing we've got to start to realise, is this is not the Leicester we once knew. This club is a mess. The reason why we've not shone a light on them too much is because of Sheffield Wednesday. But if Sheffield Wednesday were not having the issues they were having, or their issues were resolved, we'd certainly be becoming Leicester and their issues above.
Yeah, well, right now we're covering them a lot, aren't they? Because the results are not going well. And there's a lot of discontent at the King Power. But back-to-back wins for Blackburn, Justin. It looked like Valérien Ismaël made it off long left not too long ago. Now he's flying.
just as he's about to get kicked out, he finds this resurgence, doesn't he? He did it last season when there was that run of games, run of defeats, or run of terrible results, and then they went on this ridiculous run, and we could well see the same here. But it's a huge win, and it's wins against Southampton and Leicester who've just come down from the Premier League. And again, we've got to talk about the financial disparity between the teams here, despite Leicester not being able to spend. Their budget's still significantly higher than Blackburn's. But you look at the character of this Blackburn team, overturning a 1-0 deficit last weekend, and they go on to control the game here without really dominating the ball. I think it's really, really positive. They weren't lucky, but they were lucky in a sense. I mean, the cross for Johnson fell to his feet via a deflection, but his movement got him in that position. And the way they built in the second half, they could have won 3-0 because McTominay Gay had a great chance at the end where he just put it past the post. That would have really, really tipped, put the cherry on top of the cake, if you like. But with this, they've come across two teams feeling sorry for themselves, and they've punished them, and they've done a great job of it. And that's all you can really credit them for. So, yeah, they made it very uncomfortable for Leicester throughout this game.
Yeah, Ishmael's obviously been helped with the brilliant form of Andre Goodjohnson, but yeah, fair play to Big Val. I'm not sure they've been great in these two games, as you were alluding to. They were pretty fortunate that Southampton can't finish their dinner, and they're on the back foot for a lot of this game. I'd say Balash Totin goal has had just a bigger say in these two wins as Goodjohnson has. But you look at their form before these two wins, any good results seem to be a long way off. So they were both very much needed. And yeah, we'll see where they go from here. Right, let's have a look back at how we did with our predictions in Friday's preview show. And wow, oh, wow. It was a big weekend for me, ladies and gents, because I got a full house for the second weekend running. My banker came in of Birmingham to beat Portsmouth, as well as my outsider of Hull to beat Norwich, whereas Justin Peach drew a blank. His banker was the aforementioned Leicester game, where he predicted a home win. His outsider was Bristol City to beat Stoke, who got thumped 5-1, which means the scores are now 16-9 to myself. 16-9, Justin.
I don't know what you want me to say, Ryan.
How about, Ryan, you are really good at predictions and clearly the superior championship ball knowledge guy.
Well, no, I didn't expect Leicester to fold, and neither did I expect Radek Vitek to throw the ball to Stoke City on several games, which I'm sure we'll cover in a moment. So I'll rant in a moment. I'm trying to keep it internalised because I'm very, very frustrated with this weekend. I've been screwed over. That's what I'll say.
Fair enough. You think you've been screwed over, but you seem to be screwing yourself over, mate, with all the picks that you're making. But nonetheless, we'll be back with another round of predictions in next Friday's preview show. Justin, we'll take a quick break. After that, we'll talk about that 5-1 thrashing by Stoke and Norwich. Oh dear, it can. Welcome back to the Second Tier Podcast. Let's go to Stoke City, who won 5-1 against Bristol City. 3-word reviews for Stoke. ICK says, Robbins ravages Robbins. Nick on our Patreon says, it's been coming. Ben says, take Stoke seriously. Ben says, impressed yet, Dilks? LH says Justin's obscene outsider. For Bristol City, Phil on our Patreon says, don't mention us. Wayne says Halloween Howler collection. Daniel says a horror show. The Don Dwelling Red says absolute fucking shit show. Yeah, this was a meeting between 5th and 4th heading into this weekend. And it's fair to say a result I definitely didn't see coming.
Who saw this coming?
Definitely not you, you're outsider.
It's not. This result hasn't been coming because Stoke haven't been creating enough chances. But no, I barely want to talk about this because, as I say, I'm at boiling point now. You just raise the game into this into the running order. This game was perfectly set up for Bristol City. That's why nobody saw this coming. And as I explained in the previous show, just one occasion this season where Stoke have won a game by more than one goal. That was Derby on the opening day. Bristol City, on the other hand, have not conceded more than 2 in a single game. So of the games least likely to have 6 goals in it this weekend, it was this one. So what the fuck happened?
You sound very bitter.
I am, because This game's mugged me off. It's made me look obscene outside. I'm not having that. No, this was perfect. But as I say, certain individuals cost me in this game. Simple.
Yeah, okay, fine. I mean, I'll give Stoke credit instead of just criticising them for winning. Because, yeah, Stoke were astonishing. Fair play to them. I think they're a side whose performances haven't necessarily been as good as their place in the table suggests for me. I've said that a lot this season, but this was exceptional. They've absolutely run Bristol City ragged. They were helped by one of the most bizarre errors I've ever seen, Radek Vitek in the Bristol City goal. I was going to say he spilled the ball at the feet of Divine Mubama, but he didn't even really do that, did he? He just made a complete hash of it.
Yeah, I mean, we rarely see that happen, don't we? It's probably really annoying for Vitek because he's one of the goalkeepers, and he's been one of the best goalkeepers in the division this season. So yeah, it's such a bizarre thing for him to happen. Did you see Milan Menhos' reaction to the execution of his pass? By the way, he turned away, frustrated that he overcooked it, only for the ball to spill to Mubama.
Yeah. Has he got an assist for that? Surely he's not got an assist for that.
I hope not.
I don't know. But that's not even the best reaction, because the funniest bit is the reaction of the Bristol City players. One of the defenders literally turns around, walks off, thinking to himself, well, that's been dealt with. And then he turns around and sees the ball in the net. It's just funny. If you haven't seen it, I urge you to go back and watch that goal and just look at the different reactions from all the different players, because it is top class stuff. But yeah, Divine Mubama getting a hat-trick here, just turned 21 on loan from Man City. And I've seen him a fair few times this season, Justin. He is an excellent young player, isn't he?
He is. And look, he's been guilty of missing a fair few chances this season, but we do have to remember he's so inexperienced. Obviously, he's still very young as well. But what his goals have shown in this game, and actually his misses as well, he's really good at finding the right space in the area to get in a good shooting position. But hopefully this game will kick him on and give him the confidence that he definitely needs to really, really thrive. I know his first goal was a bit of a tap in, and his second goal was his second goal. A lovely drag back, nonetheless. Very composed. I'd have shit myself in that scenario. But his third goal was just a wonderful bit of composure, where he has his touch, he sets himself, and he rifles it into the top corner. So, if anything, his goals were in a nice little range of what he's capable of. But actually, it's his ability to get into good positions. That's what is really exciting about him.
Yeah, for someone who's so young, he is an absolute tank, isn't he? You can see why Man City were so keen to sign him for just over a year ago from West Ham. And yeah, he's caught my eye on a few occasions this season. You're right, he has missed a few chances recently. He was without a goal since August heading into this game. So the hat-trick has really come out of nowhere a bit. But yeah, he didn't miss the clinical touch here. And even when he's not scoring, he's such a handful of defenders. So yeah, he was exceptional in this game and looks a really exciting talent. And you know who else was exceptional in this game, Justin? Junior Shamadou, who scored an unbelievable goal dribbling from his own half. I saw, did you say on social media that you thought it was goal of the season?
Goal of the season contender, definitely. And I think it's going to be hard to top it. I feel like we've not had many. When was the last time we had an individual effort like this? It's really difficult. Not many stand out. I love individual goals like this. I mean, coming from a right back is all the more impressive. But it was just a sensational, because he just brushes off defender after defender after defender, and then his finish is equally is brilliant as well. So yeah, goal of the season contender for me, that one, Ryan. I like it a lot. Probably if we cut the season now, goal of the season, definitely.
Yeah, I think it's all the more impressive because he's someone I've not really ever been totally convinced about, but he had the game of his life yesterday, and that goal, yeah, that topped it off. That was sensational. But Stoke now up to third with 3 wins in 4. What are we thinking with them after this, Justin?
It's hard to say, really. I think there's still a lot of quality to tap into with Stoke with this side this season. I mean, are we yet to really see the best out of Badron Ho? Robert Bosnick's not really done much. Divine Mubama, as we know, has he got gears to go? They can create more. And obviously this game was an interesting singularity, if you like, because it was the highest XG they created since beating Sheffield Wednesday in August. So it was one of the singular games where they've done a really good job of getting to good goal scoring positions and done so in great volume. defensively they have been strong. So it's building on those defensive foundations that Mark Robbins have put into this side, and trying to replicate the creativity we saw in this game. And that means several players need to be on it more consistently, because if they're not, it's going to be hard to sustain a top 6 challenge. But as I say, defensively, really, really good. That will push them forward. But it's just making sure that the final third of the pitch isn't lagging behind.
Yeah, I still can't say I've been impressed with them that much this season, even though this performance was undeniably brilliant. But all that matters is they keep getting results, and it's probably going to upset Stoke fans, but it does have the feel of a bit of a freak result because they had only scored 5 in 9 heading into this. So for them to match that goal tally in this one game is a bit mad. But look, they've got Oxford away in midweek, a winnable game. Then Coventry at home next weekend, 3rd v 1st. So we'll see how they get on in those games, but this performance will have everyone's confidence as high as it gets, without a doubt. It's now 6 losses on the bounce for Norwich City, the latest coming with a 2-0 loss at home to Hull. 3-word reviews for Hull. Alfie says great away performance. Lee says 2-half Tigers. Jake says promotion-bound Tigers. Hull City Oz says roaring to promotion for Norwich. Carl says manning the fraud. Craig says everything is broken. Ben says clubs in crisis. Scott says new balls, please. Oh, my word. 6 losses on the bounce. And I think the best bit about this game, Justin, was how for Hull's second goal, you don't even hear the Hull fans celebrating. You just hear these deafening boos from the Norwich fans.
It was the same in the Leicester game when Blackburn scored. It was just boos. Just boos. All you hear is boos. But that just goes to show how volatile it is. It's the most toxic atmosphere I think I've seen at a home game in covering the Championship. Generally cannot recall it. I mean, even Sheffield Wednesday fans, I don't think, have ever turned that viscerally. So yeah, definitely the worst I've heard. And the stuff coming out of the club after always came across as a nice family-friendly club, Norwich, but this is as angry as I've seen. I reckon they've got I'm just assuming here, that the lowest football arrests in the AFL. They've always just come across as a nice club. That's my assumption. But I heard the C word a lot in videos.
Yeah, I think the crazy thing is, I think Norwich actually played pretty well here.
Yeah.
They've been shocking recently, but this was actually all right. They created more than enough chances to win it, but were ultimately let down by some poor finishing and some very poor defending. But yeah, it doesn't really matter because the results are still going against them, and the fans have well and truly had enough. There were protests before, during and after the game. That did include a tennis ball protest, which was probably the most half-arsed protest I've ever seen.
Yeah, just 5 tennis balls. I'll really show him, won't it? Yeah, come on, we can do better than that.
I literally have more tennis balls in my bag when I go to play paddle. It probably should have had more coordination about that particular effort.
I don't think there was any coordination.
But yeah, in all seriousness, the fans have clearly had enough. A change of some sort is quite obviously needed. And the only person who doesn't seem to think that is the one who ultimately matters, and that's the owner, Mark Atanasio, who, of course, defended Liam Manning and Ben Napper this week. But just a matter of days later, and that's not aged well.
No, it's almost, again, I'll praise Mark Atanasio again for fronting things. Didn't need to. Well, he did, but to do it on a radio show, I think, deserves credit. But ultimately, your team needs to back it up with results, because that's what you're measured by. The success of a football club is measured by the results on the pitch, which is crazy, really. But at the same time, when you've invested so much money and the club spent so much money and you're second bottom, it's just not ideal. It's just not good. And the club's hurtling towards a situation that people need to wake up and actually understand the situation they're in. When you compare it to, I did see a post that Norwich are now on the same amount of points that Ipswich were when they were relegated in the 2018-19 season. 8 points after 13 games. So this is a situation that needs to be resolved very, very quickly, because it's getting to a place where it's out of control.
Well, they're now calling Liam Manning James Bond, Justin, because his home record reads 007. And I think that's the most staggering thing about Norwich's downfall, because it's nearly a year to the day since Norwich lost at home for the first time in over a year, Carrow Road was a fortress for a long time, not too long ago, and now they've lost every single game there this season. Every single game at home. It's astonishing, and they're probably going to keep losing there because the atmosphere is past toxic at this stage. I've never heard boos like the ones after the second goal goes in against Hull, and to echo your point, it's one of the most toxic atmospheres I've ever heard covering the Championship. And yeah, Liam Manning headed straight down the tunnel as soon as the final whistle went, which is never a good look, even though I don't particularly blame him because he wasn't going to enjoy it if he did hang around. So it goes one or two ways, I guess. What can we say which we haven't said before at this stage? You know, this squad is not as good as it should be when it's had £50 million spent on it since Ben Napper's come in as the sporting director. Liam Manning's been dealt a shit sandwich, but you can't really defend these results at this stage. And Ben Napper may get sacked, but that's not going to improve results in the immediate future. Sacking Liam Manning might, but I think mopping up this mess is going to be very difficult for whoever it is that comes in.
You need to jet wash. You seen those videos of people jet washing rugs?
Oh, yeah. I like the ones where they jet wash people's driveways. Have you seen those?
Yeah, but in terms of the analogy of mopping up, when rugs are that dirty, you get some professional in to come in, jet wash it, squeeze it out, and it makes it brand new. That's the situation Norwich are in. To answer your question, I have seen jet washing videos of driveways. It is very satisfying. Good content. Good content. Not as good content as this, of course, but but yeah, the mess that needs to be mopped up is getting to a point where it's flooded. Like I said, they're in a position now in Norwich where the ball's rolling down the hill. You can't catch it. It's out of control. When an atmosphere is so toxic, I mean, fans at the end of the game were blocking the director's entrance, which probably shouldn't happen, but things are that toxic now that turning around this ship is going to be difficult. 12 months to the day on Saturday, Norwich set a record of having an entire year going unbeaten at home. And obviously this season, Liam Manning's record at Carrow Road is awful. It's a situation, as I say, that we've both discussed at length, needs to be changed very, very quickly. But the only person who's doing that has said, well, he's backed the people who are essentially driven the club into the ground.
It's now 4 wins in 5 for Hull, Justin. They are absolutely flying, aren't they? And it's a clean sheet, which is a rare thing for them. Probably shouldn't have had one here because Norwich had a lot of chances, but clean sheet's a clean sheet. May have been jet washed. Can't confirm nor deny that. But they also nearly scored straight from kickoff in this game, which I found very enjoyable. I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah, the audacity to do that was astonishing. I know Norwich are bad at home, but come on, lads.
Did you see who it was as well who did it?
No, I didn't actually take it into account.
It's John Egan. They're really taking the piss when they're trying to get John Egan to score. But it's now 4 goals in 4 for Joe Gellard, and he's someone who really seems to be enjoying himself this season with the Tigers, Justin. Yeah,
he's been in incredible form. He's a player I've wanted to praise over the past couple of weeks. Actually, before I do, my favourite thing about Joe Gelhard's form at the moment is his mum shares everything and anything positive about him on social media. It's incredibly wholesome. But enough about his mum. His form's great. His form's great.
Now, I want to hear more about Joe Gelhard's mum. What's she saying?
She's just praising him. I didn't specify any examples. I will make sure I bring them to the table next time. But it is literally everything he does, or any bit of fan praise, she shares it on Twitter. It's just great stuff. It's good. It warms the heart, Ryan, in amongst the toxicity of clubs like Norwich and Southampton, poisoning our minds. But he's really delivering. I think it's his ability to find pockets of space and be dangerous. But he grasps as well. His attitude is fantastic. And his form's feeding off of that. I think on a technical level, he's always been pretty good. He's just never been given a consistent run of games, or injuries have come in at the wrong time. But at Hull, so obviously since he came in on loan last January, he's really settled in. And I just hope that this turns into a permanent move, because we're seeing the best of him here.
Yeah, hopefully Joe Gelhard's mum is happy with his recent performances, because that's the big thing here. That's all I care about now. But yeah, I forgot that he's still on loan from Leeds. Mm-hmm. Feels like he moved to Hull permanently in the summer, but yeah, they surely have to be getting him on a permanent, or be looking to at the very least, because he is really flourishing there, isn't he? He was good there on loan last season. And I always get the sense of untapped potential with him. I guess because he's been at Leeds for ages and barely played for them. Because he quite clearly needed a move away and somewhere for him to settle. But that's happening now at Hull, isn't it? And still only 23, so still plenty of room to grow. But yeah, I'd be very interested to see where he does end up next season, because Hull would obviously love to sign him on a permanent, but I imagine there'll be others keeping an eye on how he's getting on, because he's doing bloody well. Justin, we'll take a quick break. After that, we'll talk about Middlesbrough losing for just the second time this season and Birmingham thumping Pompey. Welcome back to the Second Tier podcast. Middlesbrough lost for just the second time this season with a 3-0 defeat away at Watford. 3 word reviews for Watford. Kurt says, we are back. WFC says it's coming together. For Borough, Steptoe says performances dropping fast. Neil says goal scorer needed. Another scoreline I didn't see coming this weekend, Justin.
Yeah, certainly not the scoreline, but maybe the result. Watford have got the best home record in the division, and argue they also has the worst away record in division, which is very, very Watford, but definitely not a hammering. But certainly the way Watford played, they did deserve the 3-0. The way Borough played as well was actually quite alarming, but full credit to the Hornets. They looked brilliant. They were quite direct, which was nice. What was helped was getting the ball into Quadro Bar out on the right, and he just punching the Borough left-hand side as often as he could. That really was the main route for Watford in this game, and the Kiramgard goal came from that. Imran Lalza was brilliant in the middle of the park. He ran the show. Yeah, a lot of positives to take from a Watford point of view. But yeah, scoreline-wise, yeah, certainly didn't see it coming.
Yeah, I didn't see it coming. It also perhaps didn't fully reflect the game because, yeah, I'm not sure 3-0 properly reflects how these two sides played, but it's a great result for Watford. As you say, brilliant to see Quadro Bar back in the team. It's been a mystery to us all season why he's not been playing, but he showed what he can do with the first goal. The third goal was a brilliant strike by Mamadou Doumbia, although the goal appears to have been given to Luka Keramgar. So I guess it took a nick off him, but I'd be very annoyed if I was Doumbia in that situation. But yeah, Watford have got a lot of very enjoyable players, and we saw that here. They also, by and large, kept Middlesbrough at arm's length. Selvik in the Watford goal had a few saves to make, but I can't recall a great Borough chance. So, yeah, great result for Harry Gracia. And you're absolutely right, Watford with the best home record in the Championship now. Have won their last 4. So, Vicarage Road proving to be a very difficult place to go. Middlesbrough still second, with this just being their second loss of the season, Justin, but have won just 2 of their last 7. So, what are we thinking with them now?
As I say, I was quite alarmed with how they played. They never fixed the bar problem on the left-hand side. Borough constantly putting in crosses without any real production, and that was the type of style of Rob Edwards was deploying last season consistently at Luton without really getting results, and then that needed to be avoided. So as I say, that's why they created very, very little, is because they're just doing the same thing over and over again without getting the right results. They don't have a typical number 9 that other clubs have, like Lucky Keramgard, where you can put the crosses into him. The likes of Hayden and Hackney, Alan Brown didn't have the same influence in the midfield as we've seen in recent weeks either. So there was a mix of players not quite at their best here, but also the way they played, there was some red flags for me.
Yeah, well, you say they haven't got a proper number 9, but they spent $6.5 million on David Strelak, haven't they, in the summer, but he's yet to really get going. I know it's a bit of a mad thing to say when they've just conceded 3, but Borough have been really solid at the back all season. The issue has been more goals, and Rob Edwards has said just as much. You got Craig Johns, who writes for Teesside Live. He said this game was like the worst side of Michael Carrick's Borough, which I think is a really good way of describing it, really, because they've been slow and ponderous on the ball recently, when earlier in the season during their amazing start they weren't doing that. Maybe part of that is down to teams adapting to them or maybe sitting back more against them because they've started so well. Either way, it's something Rob Edwards needs to work out. We'll be talking more about him in some more time, Justin, because he has been linked with a Premier League job, which I'll leave as a mystery for now, for a bit of suspense. But look, Middlesbrough have got 2 big games this coming week, away at Leicester and then Birmingham at home next weekend. Let's talk about them now, because Birmingham got just their 3rd victory in 11, a 4-0 win against Portsmouth. 3 road reviews for Birmingham. Dancing Dude says, finally set pieces. Snapdown on our Patreon says, Davies under pressure. John says, starting to click. Knocker says, keep right on. For Portsmouth, John says, what the fuck? Ollie says, South Coast shite. Paul says, still above them. Yeah, Birmingham have struggled for goals for so much of the season. And then this happens, Justin.
Yeah, despite missing a penalty, by the way, as well. It could have been an even nicer game for them, but they were really on top form. Fair props to Lady screaming with every fucking goal, by the way.
I heard that as well. Every goal
single
she's
goal.
Screeching, isn't she?
Yeah, but presumably it was Lady. It could have been Chris Davis in an absolute excitement at finally getting some goals in his team. But yeah, you've got to say that they obviously fully deserved the win. They did hammer Portsmouth, but I think this is a nice little marker of what Birmingham can achieve if they really do click, because it was one of those games where they really punished Portsmouth. But you can argue in recent weeks that they've not been creative enough, but they really took advantage of their situations here, which, as I say, they've not done often enough.
You say that. I think the only negative you can have for Birmingham, really, is that they should have scored more, because they had so many chances outside of the goals, including that missed penalty by Jay Stansfield. Genuinely, they could have scored 7 or 8 here. It was that dominant. They created so many chances, and 3 of the goals came from set pieces, which you must have enjoyed, Justin.
Yeah, I love a set piece. All 4 came from set piece scenarios, if I wanted to get panicky about it. But yeah, with 3 goals coming directly from set pieces. I mean, Chris Davis mentioned after the game that they had been working on their set pieces, and I guess that's the reward. But obviously, if you do struggle to create from open play, as Birmingham have been doing this season, they've really struggled to turn possession into good or organic, a consistent run of sustained amount of chances.
Yeah,
you've got to get good at those situations, and obviously goals that'll breed confidence, and that's what we saw in this game. Even missing the penalty, heads didn't drop. They went and chased the other one. Maybe Portsmouth were a really poor opponent, but Birmingham are going to get those this season where they're probably not going to be as active in front of goal, or at least creating. So, yeah, all you can do is really credit them for being very, very clinical.
Yeah. I was surprised to see Birmingham didn't actually score that many goals from set pieces last season. I had just assumed because they were so dominant in League One that they would have scored loads as well as loads from open play, but surprisingly not. However, when you've got a player as massive as Christoph Klauer is, you're always going to be a threat from them. And if they're the answer to Birmingham scoring more goals, then yeah, it'll definitely be welcomed. So I guess the question is now, Justin, is this Birmingham back on track? Because it was definitely the kind of performance which could warrant that happening.
Could be. I wouldn't say so. We need consistency to really be convinced, if I was to really pour some water on the fire there. Beating a Portsmouth team who are a mess right now isn't a marker for them being back, but it's certainly a step in the right direction, and it's a word of warning to the rest of the division that this is what this team can do if you give them a sniff. Despite the sniff being from set pieces, they punished Portsmouth with that. Although I will contradict what I just said. Chris David did say he said before the game that his team weren't far away. So maybe they are back. Maybe they're where they need to be.
Maybe. I did see that quote in midweek, and I was thinking I must be looking at a different team, because Birmingham didn't seem like they were not that far away.
But when they win 4-0, then you go, actually, no, maybe Chris Davis was right.
Maybe he was right, yeah, because this was an unbelievable performance from Birmingham. As I say, on another day, could have scored loads more than 4. It is interesting that in this 11-game run, where Birmingham have only won 3, there have only been 4 games where Birmingham had 50% or less possession. The 3 wins have come in 4 of those games, including this one here against Portsmouth, surprisingly. So there have been so many games this season where Birmingham have had the lion's share possession, sometimes as high as 70%, and they find themselves struggling to convert that into chances. But in the 3 wins, they've sacrificed having so much possession, and it's worked out for them. So, yeah, definitely food for thought there for Chris Davis. But yeah, I think one big issue he's had is finding his strongest team. But we probably saw that in this game. Marvin Dukes up front was brilliant. That was only his 2nd start of the season. Tommy Doyle, superb in midfield. He seems to have nailed down that spot now. And Smoky Water has been great since shifting to right back. So hopefully this can signal the start of Birmingham being the force a lot of people expected them to be this season. It's back-to-back wins for Ipswich. They beat QPR 4-1 thanks to braces from George Hurst and Marcelino Nunez. 3-word reviews for Ipswich. Ivo Mauricio on our Patreon says, onwards and upwards. Reese on our Patreon says, at our best. Alf says, thank you, Norwich. Stuart says, match point Nunez. Get it, Justin, because Norwich had the tennis balls at the game. Yeah. For QPR, Fly on our Patreon says, new goalie required. Matt on our Patreon says, Stefan out now. Not sure how serious that is from Matt, but there you go. Ipswich's first away win of the season, Justin.
Yeah, that blew my mind a little bit. Quite staggering they've got to November and that's their first away win. Yeah, quite incredible. But look, win is a win. They were great, and as I say, it did feel like Ipswich were back to their best. Take away the Nunez free kicks, they were sensational. The wing play on display here was great, and Ipswich ran it back with one of the goals being a brilliant team goal. That was like the confident Ipswich we were used to seeing in the 23-24 season, where it was team goal after team goal, wasn't it? And obviously late goal after late goal as well. But yeah, there was really good team quality on display, as well as the individual quality that we saw from Nunez. So it was a nice packaged performance from Ipswich, where you sort of come away from that and go, actually, yes, maybe they're the team that are back. Maybe.
Yeah, you're right. Ipswich were great. They did have a couple of shaky moments in the first half, but it was like the players said to each other at half time, guys, shall we just crush them? And they did. Marcelino Nunez with 2 free kicks, which I'm sure will make Norwich fans even happier about their current plight.
Yeah, it's the worst day to do it, when the atmosphere turns so significantly for Norwich, but also there's the PR comments from Mark Atanasio, the Norwich owner, in midweek as well, which is just terrible timing, and Nunez pulls them out of the bag. Yeah, well done. Yeah. Fair play.
When it rains, it really pours, doesn't it? But Ipswich, they'll be absolutely loving this, won't they? Because, the second one is astonishing. It wobbled so much on its way into the goal. It was really incredible. Yeah, he was playing as a number 10 here as Nunez, which is interesting because he's usually been playing as one of the two in the 4-2-3-1 Kieran McKenna likes to play with. So maybe this is the future, putting him here, because he was really, really good. So that's one of the many positives Ipswich can take away from this game, because you had George Hurst, who was magnificent up front, scored pretty much the same goal twice. He's someone who's come in for a lot of criticism recently, so that was a great way to answer those critics. Apparently the first time he scored more than once in a game for Ipswich as well, which I thought was interesting. I thought Sindrawala-Eagley was excellent on the right. I think we're really starting to see why Ipswich paid so much money for him. At various times this season, Ipswich haven't been great, have they? But they've had Jayden Philogene bail them out. In this game, Philogene was arguably Ipswich's poorest player, which I think is actually a good thing, because it means others are stepping up. And slowly but surely, I think Ipswich are starting to find their stride, which, let's just say, it's worrying news for the rest of the division.
Well, it is, because if they get going, it's going to be an interesting... I would say 8 weeks up until New Year, because there's a lot of football to be played. I know we've got the 2-week international break, but there's a ridiculous amount of games that's going to be played. And I think if Ipswich team can peak in that period, that will really propel them to the top. A lot to ask with the points gap at the moment, but still, if anyone's going to pull it back with the quality of the players that they've got, it's Ipswich. And again, this was a really good team performance. Like I said, there was a nice blend of individual quality, good team goals, players needing goals or needing good performances to get the confidence up. And that was all there for Ipswich. So, and like I said, that's the important thing that you mentioned, is Jayden Philogene has been the player that Ipswich have relied on. There were other players who stepped up, like Eagley. Wing play for one of Hurst's goals was fantastic. George Hurst actually being clinical. There was so many positives to take out of it, despite some wobbly moments. This is a marker for the rest of the division.
Yeah, before you could give them the excuse that they were still gelling, because they, of course, signed a lot of players over the summer. And they did have those couple of disappointing results against Middlesbrough and then Charlton, but this was a great way to respond, because they haven't responded brilliantly with back-to-back wins. And you mentioned the points gap. Looking at the table, they've got a game in hand, only 3 points off fifth, only 6 points off the top two. Next 6 games, all very inviting, yeah. I think it's starting to come together for Kieran McKenna's team. And finally, a hat-trick from Carlton Morris saw Derby beat Sheffield United 3-1. 3 reviews for Derby. K-Donk says Derby are massive. North East Derbyshire Ram says Carlton goal machine. Richard says Morris. Fred says Carlton fucking Morris. Yeah, my 100-to-1 bet for him to be top goal scorer at the start of the season. Looking very good. I was also surprised, actually, to find out this was his first hat-trick of his career, Justin. Does that surprise you?
It did surprise me. I was listening to it on the radio and they were belting the stat out, and I was like, surely not. So I dipped into the archives, and yeah, obviously it is. He was very prolific at Barnsley and obviously very prolific at Luton. So this to be his first hat-trick for the mighty Rams. I'm very happy with that.
Yeah, very happy indeed. He was given a fair bit of help for the hat-trick. Sidney Peck tried to play a back pass and ended up putting Morris clean through. It was so early on in the second half that they were still playing the blooming Greasy Chick Butty song when he put that through. And then he was also helped by a bizarre penalty given for a handball against Alex Matos, where he was sort of on like all fours, like a turtle. And then the ball's hit his arms. So, yeah, it was very strange, but it's worth having a look at if you haven't seen it. But, yeah, 3 wins on the spin for Derby. Things looking a lot better for the Rams.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, it would have been nicer to have the clean sheet, but I think to go away at Bramall Lane, even in the current circumstances, is still a good win. And it's going to be one that really pushes confidence in a new direction for Derby, because up until 3 games ago, I would argue Derby have been, maybe compete with Norwich here, one of the worst teams in the division. They were terribly balanced, but they switched to 3 at the back with wing backs has really, really pushed them in a new dimension. They're a physical team. Chris Wilder said something really funny after the game where he basically laid out every game plan that Derby are going to play, which is get the ball to Carlton Morris, knock down, aggressive, and it was rinse and repeat. And that's all Derby did here.
And he scored a hat-trick.
And he scored a hat-trick. So things aren't particularly complicated from a Derby point of view. It's very simple, but football's a simple game. Just play it.
Yeah. Wilder also said we need a number 9, didn't he? And you got Kiefer Moore, who's now the second top scorer in the season.
Bagging a hat-trick this weekend.
Yeah. Oh, dear. Poor Chris. It's not getting any better for them, is it? But, yeah, on Derby, I did tip them to improve after the last international break. And one of the reasons for that was because the fixtures were turning in Derby's favour. But you're absolutely right. The main reason why they've been doing so much better is because they've switched to 3 at the back. And you've got Sandra Langas coming into the team at the back, has been sublime. You are desperate to say something, Justin. Go on.
Yeah. I knew you were going to mention Langas. Did you see the picture of his...
him throwing Dion Sanderson?
No.
Oh, no, you're talking about...
I'm trying to describe
the mysterious stain which appeared between his legs.
It looked like a bloodied groin / I don't know how to describe it. You know the place I'm describing between... In the other region. Yeah, the gooch. I didn't know the best way to describe it. I don't know what the PG terminology was for it. But yeah,
gooch is the scientific way of describing it.
Is it actually a scientific way?
No, I don't know.
Okay, fine. But yeah, it looked bloodied. People have speculated online. I feel like we need an answer because there's a lot to take away from it. But yes, him being introduced back into that back line has really helped.
Yeah. What was that mysterious stain, Sandra? Please let us know. But to get back onto my serious point, yeah, Derby have looked so much more solid since going to 3 at the back, and as solid as you'd expect a John Eustace team to be as well, because they definitely weren't that at the start of the season. And the previous 2 wins weren't amazing, but this was probably Derby's best performance of the season. And suddenly, you're looking up the table once again, whereas before you were wondering whether it could be a season of struggle for the Rams. Justin, let's do the polls. This is the part of the show where we give the listeners 3 questions on Twitter because we want to get their thoughts on everything going on from across the Championship. So the first question we asked was this: what would be best for Kieran McKenna's career? Stay at Ipswich or go to Celtic?
Go to Celtic. The Scottish fans found our explanation or our discussion on that, which has been funny reading the comments.
Interesting. I'll have to have a little read of that after this. 54% of people said stay Ipswich. 46% said go to Celtic. Are Norwich City in a relegation battle this season? Yes or no?
If you say no, you're deluded. They are.
87% said yes. 13% said no. And finally, what's the best part of the UK? The North, the Midlands, or the South?
What? I don't actually know.
Well, you live in the Midlands, so back the Midlands.
Midlands is miserable, to be honest with you.
Why is it miserable? We've got the Peak District.
Barely.
What do you mean? It's in Derbyshire.
No.
Derbyshire's in the Midlands.
Right. You check your borders, mate. I think it's basically Yorkshire, which is the north.
What? The Peak District?
Yes.
You've lost your mind. No, it's not.
No,
you're from Derbyshire and you don't know where the Peak District is.
I'm aware of where the Peak District. I think most of it is in Yorkshire.
You clearly don't. It's not. It's in Derbyshire.
Oh no. Okay, so Derbyshire, I think, is actually very, very north.
I always say the north starts at Chesterfield.
Yes,
which is North Derbyshire.
So to go back to your other point, It's not in the Midlands.
You Google where the Peak District is, mate, because you've lost your mind if you don't.
Not in the Midlands. Not in the Midlands, which is the original point. Anyway. I would say... I generally don't know. That's a hard one to answer. I don't
Just
like
say the Midlands. You're from the Midlands. 40% of people said the North. 38% said the South. 22% said the Midlands. We'll take Wales in the Midlands debate, so maybe we'll boost that up a bit more. But there we go, ladies and gents. This has been the polls, and this has been the Second Tier Podcast. We'll be back again on Thursday to talk about all the midweek action from across the Championship. If you're a Patreon subscriber or a YouTube community member, don't go anywhere. We've got the extended edition of the Weekend Show coming up, which we like to call some more time. We'll be talking about Rob Edwards to Wolves, Aaron Ramsey, and the Craig Bryson controversy from Friday. If you're not a Patreon subscriber, sign up to get some more time in every single Weekend Show. And for YouTube members, your more time is available exclusively to you as the next video uploaded to the channel. If you're not signed up yet, audio listeners can head over to patreon.com/second tier. Link is in the description of this episode. And for YouTube viewers, just hit the join icon right next to the subscribe button. But that's just about time for us. We'll be back again on Thursday to talk about all that midweek action. But this has been the Second Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.